I love how it just kind of, the piece actually comes in and swoops down and becomes part of the sign, and the sign becomes part of the installation, which I think is kind of unusually nice thing to happen in a situation like this. So I'm going to kind of walk around in here, and please, if you have any questions, you know, probably the best things I will say will be the response to a question as opposed to me kind of just...
Well, no questions bother no end in the classroom.
It's pretty typical, actually.
Typical.
That's all right with me.
We're not talking to Agnes Scott here.
Is there a Professor McCarthy?
I think I am the only one. So you are in your class-based shows, right?
Yeah. Now there's a good question that I probably wouldn't have brought up.
Yeah.
It's like essential, and I would have thrown it off.
The question was?
What's my relationship to the Jonesboro Sun? Okay. I live in Jonesboro.
Yeah.
I teach at ASU. And when I moved there a couple of decades ago, I just started getting the paper because I felt like I needed to. I always read the paper. In fact, I was a paper boy. I forgot to mention, I was a paper boy. That obviously, you want to hear my paper boy story? It's gonna take away from all the depth that we would have used that time for. But I think this is a good story. When I was in college, I went to Duke, fine institution, excellent education, but I was a bit of a party boy. Okay, I was in a fraternity. It was accidental. I accidentally ended up in a fraternity, but I won't get into that because we'll just be standing here talking about that. But anyway, I was a bit of a party boy. I did well. I was fine, and I'm grateful to Duke because it was there that I realized that I wanted to be an artist. I was an English major, and I took some art classes just kind of out of curiosity there, and which at that time was not a particularly great studio program. And but the idea of making something, you know, communicating with materials had never been brought to my attention. And for that to happen, it was like, it changed my life. It really did. But when I wasn't making stuff and, you know, passing my English exams, I was a bit of a party boy. And the fraternity thing was accidental. If anyone wants to stay later and ask me what I mean by that, I'll be happy to do that. Then I went to University of Iowa for graduate school, because it has the writer's workshop and a great English program, and a really good, at least at that time, really good graduate program in studio art. That's how I ended up at Iowa. But when I went, I said, Jay, John, whoever you are, you're 20, how old are you now? 20, how old are you when you go graduate? 22. Right? You're sorry to ask this question now. No. Anyway, and I never really did answer it yet. But
It's okay.
22. You've got to get your shit together. I mean, enough of this. So, I was not like a 12-year-old paper boy. I was a 22-year-old graduate student paper boy because I knew that to deliver the Daily Iowan, you had to get up at the crack of the bud of dawn at about 6, or early, 5:30, I think. Get the papers. That was my way of disciplining myself. I'm going to have to get up early to do this paper route. I'm not going to miss a day. So, what does that mean? You've got to behave yourself a little more in the evening. So that's my initial paper thing. I'm an extremely cheap human being. If I buy something, if there's any way I can reuse it, keep it, not throw it out, I do. It's actually, that is the bedrock of everything I do. any of you know the kind of work I do. So I just started getting the paper in August of whatever, and just started just automatically saving it. It was like this strange, not knowing what I would do with it. So I've read all these papers. I get it in the morning, read it, carefully fold it up, put it in a box. When the box is full, I note, mark it, and take it to the studio. And there they pile up. I've done some other paper projects in the past. I've stacked them in columns, newspaper columns. So I've used some of these in the past for other things, but there was always this idea of this accumulate, that there's a certain, I guess, credibility to the quantity that, you know, it got to the point where there was a critical mass where I felt I could maybe use them in my work, and that's kind of how this came to pass. Maybe that answers your question. Yes.
Why was it important to archival chronological progression instead of picking things based on personal memory?
Well, that's actually a good question, and I think the difference there is all information. There is unedited, unselected, just other than the fact I picked those 4 years. So that's just time marches on, and there's all this information.
Yeah.
This part is choosing specifically. Not only choosing specifically, but also choosing mostly on a very personal, you know, first of all, why did you even save the thing, right? And then you're making the decision to say, I'm stepping forward with this to isolate it, to focus on it. So I think there's a kind of a back and forth between that as just general information, unedited, just out there, and this, then you come into here and it's all very specific.
Do you think that you put this in a separate room because of that, or in like just because of the shape of the museum? To have this separate room of,
That was done purposefully. Now, there's 4 rooms.
right,
Okay. And it was meant to be almost like you have to walk through that in order to get to this, was part of the idea. What we did with this, and like I said, I recognize a few folks who submitted stuff. We tried to include as much as we could, given the space concerns. But anyone who, and what we, if anyone gave multiple submissions, like some people did 2 or 3, they couldn't decide on one. For the most part, we just picked what we thought was either the best one or one that was dealing with something that none of the other ones were. So we tried to kind of make it more inclusive by limiting most people to only one, although there were some that were such gems that there's maybe 2 or 3 people, I think, in the show that have multiple submissions. Also, anyone who submitted that isn't in the show, which are not very many people, are still included in the online version of the exhibition. So when this was unruly, that to me this was, I know what I'm doing, I know what I want it to look like, I know what I got, and I know I can depend on this man to do a good job installing it. This was, here it all is, a closet full of all this stuff, scrapbooks, shoe boxes with stuff in it, and you know, all kinds of things. So it was a real, I was exhausted after a week, 5 days with this stuff. How are you going to arrange it? What do you know? and there are actually little, you probably will notice that there's kind of some kind of interconnectivity, you know, like there's the music area, and then, you know, like I like this one where you've got this old fart, a guy I actually know, who had to tell us about his exploit. Yeah. He's not, don't tell him.
No, of course not.
I forgot. Shit. Anyway, Professor McCarthy. You know, he couldn't resist, you know, turning in his one moment of glory when he was a chick magnet for like 5 minutes. When he kicked, you know, the winning goal in a soccer match. So he saved that and he treasured it. How awesome. That's what I was looking for. And sure enough, up in Jonesboro, Ashlyn Doty submitted another, like, homage to self. Doty's Bomb sings Perfect Rivercrest. So here we have the past and the present, because I think this one's like, maybe she did that last season kind of thing, or very recently. So I thought that was a nice kind of combination to put those two like that. There's here's these two are two sweet ones, and oh, they're leaving. So thanks, you guys. Thank you. All right. Was it because of what I said about McCarthy? But that's not why you're leaving. God, I hope not. Anyway.
They're going straight back.
I'm screwed. But here's two that I really like. Here's a guy paying homage to his mom, the first engineering student at the university that she went to. And then here's a girl who submitted a newspaper. Her mom passed away when she was a younger girl. And this is an example of her mom was a child abuse advocate, whatever that, would you be a child abuse advocate?
I think an
anti-child abuse advocate. And she, you know, really has strong feelings for her mom, and she also, her dad's still alive, but she is proud of him. So I kind of did this, like, you know, double portrait kind of thing that I think relates nicely to that one. Let's keep, any questions? Keep them coming. Questions?
When they have, each submission is numbered, and then it says audio or text. In most cases, it's both. If it's audio, then you have a voice. They're recorded to talk about their image on the computer. If not, or in addition, their text that they turn in are here, so you can pick one up. So every piece has a story, and the story is either written or recorded or both.
So I would love for you guys to, yes, sir.
There's two pieces in here I was curious about. This one's mine, I just wanted to.
Yes!
That was my wife's over there.
Yes!
So we can move on now.
I wanted to say something.
Yeah, you didn't mention it, so I'm leaving now.
I was getting to that. I was saving that for the end. I was saving that for the climax. Jeez. Anyway, come here now. I want to ask you something. Are you happy with how
Yes.
they were,
Yes.
you know, because we put you in the context.
I'm not. I want to look like she does.
But, you know, just to, we had these 3 examples of these like framed kind of, you know, nicely presented thing, and so we thought it was nice to have those
Very
3
impressive.
together. And then, are you cool with the book there?
Yeah.
Okay, we felt like the book was an important part of it, so we thought that you wouldn't mind if
Not at all.
we showed that.
Not at all.
Good.
Did we get a paycheck or anything?
See this one.
Very nice. Thank you.
Well, let's just quickly go through a couple of the other, if you guys have time, or won't care to, or do you want to go?
I actually have a question
Oh.
on the main piece here. It's always bothered me when professors ask you to analyze a poem or something like that, and okay, what does it mean, to you? And so I have a feeling of this, and I'm curious if it's in line with your thinking on the piece or whatever. But you mentioned something when we were with the walkway above earlier, that it's moving and that you're moving out that way. But I was thinking originally that the flock is moving this way, and as it comes, you're getting newer material constantly. Is that separate from your vision, or is that?
That's a totally awesome interpretation. My only, what I was thinking of in terms of flying away was that it's, the printed paper is disappearing.
Right.
So this flock is flying away, yeah. But that other way, or you could think of it as a gathering. Here they are, they're gonna go on strike. It's our last attempt to clean this mess up. We're coming, and they're coming in to meet, to congregate here, to make a point. Would be totally just as good, maybe better.
They're coming into a museum now, out of the world.
There you go.
Right,
Yeah.
relics.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're coming from out in the quote real world,
Right.
where they're not going to back in. Very nice. Where this kid, his mom, was moving from one domicile to another, and all of these were on the refrigerator door. Some of them all about family, mom, that kind of thing. And even she's on several occasions gone in with whiteout and whited it out in order to change, we've got 4 boys and a cat, see? So she's kind of manipulated the found object, but I thought it was great that he turned these in, and when he did, I said, you should have brought the refrigerator, the whole refrigerator. But he didn't. So what I did here was kind of compensated and arranged it with the double stacked glass, so it has a refrigerator door size and feel to it, so. Which I don't know if you'd get it unless you read his statement, but anyway. And that's totally, that hits home for me, because that's the kind of things my mom would do, so and I'm sure many other moms. So. This room was a good one in terms of getting us started, because we had all that stuff, and how are we going to arrange it? What kind of theme? What's going on here? And what we realized were there were some really nice kind of historical submissions. So the first thing we did really was figured out what would go in this room. So we have, the couple of Elvis Death Day samples, and World War II, and the Clinton impeachment, and Berlin Wall, and this is one of my, this blew me away when we got this. Someone's mother had died a couple of years ago, and when they went to her house, they found a box with newspapers in it, and it was, her mom had lived, I guess in Fort Worth, and had saved all these, this whole sequence of newspapers from the Kennedy assassination, and that was an important moment in my life as a little person, and so it was really great to get that, and so that was a really one I was really happy with.
Do you know, was the press a tabloid in competition with the Star Telegram, or was it just the afternoon paper? Or?
I don't know. She may mention that in her statement, but I don't think so. But that would probably be easy enough to find out online. No one submitted a 9/11, which I see as kind of similar to that in terms of earth-shattering kind of event. No one did. Someone almost did, but I won't get into that. So I am anonymous. I found this at the Jonesboro Sun. They bind all of their newspapers, or at least they used to. And so I fished, there's a whole room full of these blue books. And so I specifically looked for that volume in order to make that part of the exhibition.
A statement in itself.
Tell about
Oh, this is you might ask, why would someone submit the Star Report on Clinton and Monica Lewinsky's activities? Why would someone save that? Because that was 98, it's been a while now. It's hard to believe it's been that long. And there are they two. But there's a good reason. The guy that submitted this is a professor at a university, and he teaches the philosophy of sex. So when this happened, he thought that this would be a significant kind of document to refer to in his classes. So that's how that ended up in the show. And it's actually, it would fill, if you got all the paper, and I wanted to do that, but I tried to, because there's we probably could have done maybe 12 panels of this. It's really, and that's kind of what's kind of weird and funny about it. Not funny, but that was, we had to kind of make it a little smaller, but still give a sense of all that information.
Did most newspapers, do you remember that?
No, in fact, I was going to say, this would never happen today. There's hardly even, you can get 4 pages, that's your whole paper now.
Right.
12 pages.
Yeah, that was an insert, yeah.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Oh.
Finish.
So when you ready to get it?
I'll tell you later. I will, I promise.
I want to be here later.
Well, I'm about done, so.
This is David Arand. He's the head of the journalism department.
And this was a fantastic submission. And apparently this guy, reputation precedes him, Mr. Vincent Astor. But I like this because this harkened back to the original idea of having people submit objects.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime we did get a newspaper-related or print-related submission that had a kind of evidence, physical evidence out beyond the newspaper, I found that to be really kind of fun. And so for him to turn in these two things, the birth announcement and the original type for it, and then these photographs of him and his mom. I think he was the first depositor in the new state savings bank, and he was given this piggy bank as a
Piggly Wiggly is what I was thinking of.
I just thought this was great. And apparently he's going to bring his mom. She's still alive. She's 96. He's going to bring his mom to see this, so I hope that Jason can maybe be around when that happens, because I think that would be a fun thing to have.
Good.
Just what attracted my husband and I here initially was the fact that we are co-founders of a genealogy group here in Memphis, and this is just wonderful stuff for genealogy researchers, I'll tell you. And you can't replace it.
Right.
So when these folks are gone, there will be no evidence of them, other than these kinds of things that they've saved.
And the interesting thing about this was, it was almost like accidental genealogy or kind of random genealogy, because, my mom was totally into, looking finding that kind of stuff. I should. But this is more like would be like a kind of crazy discovery on my part that, you know, what's going to come in, what kind of things are going to turn up. And I'm happy to report that it was as wide-ranging and interesting and inspiring as I could have ever hoped, really. So, you know, what I said upstairs about being concerned about what you might get, maybe nothing, that turned out to be paranoia or, you know, just overly cautious. But I still think that ultimately the combination of these submissions and then that other thing kind of work together, I think. It's like they kind of bounce off of each other. So I'm totally grateful for the things that people turned in, you guys included. Because the things you turned in are totally different than, there was very little like overlap, you know, and there were just like different things that people are interested in, is, you know.
I'm gonna ask the journalism professor this. We have all this stuff that we've collected about our families. And everybody mostly has, and it's like in big volumes, notebooks, binders. Not binders full of women, but binders.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And people say digitize it. Is that, what would you recommend?
If you want to keep it, if you want to share it, digitize it.
Digitize it.
Yeah, there's a guy that, we had a speaker last week named, a narrative historian named Hampton Sides. And he did this book about King's assassination and the search for Martin Luther King's assassin. And he got this tremendous boost in covering that story from a local police dispatcher, a policeman who was dispatcher of the night, and he gathered and collected all these physical archives, and he digitized them all, and he was able to share them with Hampton Sides, and it just filled out several portions of his story. So I think that's what you have to do if you want, unless you, for you, no.
You have students that
But if
will
you
do
want
it
to
for
survive
free.
you, nobody else is going to be going through your box after you die, except maybe your relatives, and then they're probably going to, they might even throw it out. But digitizing might be a way that preserves it beyond this life.
On the other hand, digital technologies
Well, there's that too.
go, I mean, we've got an original
Yeah,
apple back there.
yeah,
I mean, it's nothing but a museum piece now.
Right.
You can't do anything on it. And I used to have a shelf of laptops that the technology was shot, and you can't, you know, they don't make that kind of a device anymore that goes in it. So, you know,
It's like an HVAC.
but it does have the advantage of being able to be distributed. While the technology is living, you can distribute it anywhere. But, are you from Memphis?
We live in Memphis now.
Okay.
You know somebody?
There are researchers now who are looking for family histories, because that's how you build history. And,
They're looking for Memphis history?
well,
in
yes,
particular?
yes. Ernestine Jenkins over in the art department, who is,
I know who she is.
you know Ernestine?
Yeah.
She's really doing wonderful stuff, trying to fill in the gaps.
I know who she is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right now, she's writing a book, so she probably won't talk to anybody.
good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Had some great questions.
What was your question? Weren't you gonna ask?
No, it's personal.